A pleasure to meet all at last. And so, we probably already know what's going to happen here. This is none other than a remake of the original Charlotte's Web. The Charlotte's Web 2006 remake is little more than what it is. A remake of the original, just with more live action. And I will say that in correlation to what the original had to offer back in '73, this was of course not at all related to the original. Even though it did have some similar feels and some similar ways, the fact that it was directed by Gary Winnick, the fact that it had the likes of Dakota Fanning and Julia Roberts and Oprah Winfrey in the film's cast, and despite the fact that you have yourself some ratings that still do pertain to this being a good remake in contrast to the many other remakes that we've seen in the past, well, I can't quite say that I have given this film all that much praise in contrast to the original, in which most of my attention had gone to for the whole entire time. But let's be real here. I'm here to review a film, and that's pretty much what it is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a bit about Charlotte's Web 2006. The most obvious thing is that this does follow every single known point in the story that E.B. White had talked about, although some changes from the book to the film were put together, and this film does little more than just copy off a good majority, if not everything, that the first film had to offer back in '73. And you know what? It probably isn't all that much worth talking about when knowing that I've already discussed almost everything that had happened in the first Charlotte's Web film, going into such big detail on almost every major event that happened, from the time that Fern discovered that Wilbur was a runt and that her father, John Arable, was intending to do away with him, to the time where she raised Wilbur, to the time that Wilbur had to be sent off to Zuckerman's farm, to the time that Wilbur finds out he can talk and has trouble sleeping over the fear of dying, and then of course with every other thing that carried on from the first film into this remake here, it certainly does come off as a near unnecessary piece. You know, considering the fact that we already had a film that's been well known for over 50 years, why would we ever need a remake, much like something that's live action? And the thing is that in correlation to animation, which was done pretty well by Ewell and Dakota, the likes of CG probably is nothing all too great in this piece even. And while some people might argue that, much like what we'd seen in other CG films during this time in the 2000s, it was a bit of a competition at this point. And knowing that with over 15 years of usage of CG that had come around in films, with some of the earlier examples being Mortal Kombat '95, Terminator 2, and even, of course, the first ever big film to be put into screen made entirely of CG, Toy Story. It certainly comes off as just understanding the fact that for 2006 standards, it's nothing entirely huge. It's more of live action than animation, but they do a pretty good job at putting those two things together. It's kind of like how with other films that have come around by this time, like Arthur and the Invisibles, or Arthur and the Minimoys, as it's also called, alongside many other instances of live action and animation, even Osmosis Jones had given us a solid example of something that could be made combining animation and live action filmography. But the thing is that every single key moment is put together in this title. Charlotte's Web 2006 is little more than going from John Arable trying to kill Wilbur, to Fern stopping him, to Homer picking up Wilbur, Wilbur learning how to talk and how to feel comforted knowing that there is a certain spider above him named Charlotte. Then of course with the other things that come around, from him getting fed by Lurvy, to him getting his messages spelled out from Charlotte's own web, to the carnival, to the announcers that come along as Zuckerman himself states he intends to keep Wilbur around for as long as possible. And then of course, the death of Charlotte. Plus all that implies with every other character that we've seen, with every other character that we've gotten to know about, even Templeton the Rat. Like I said, I almost feel that there was the uncertainty that just stands to reason. I don't quite see this film being anywhere as good as the original. And it basically just is like what most remakes have given us. They've given us possibly more so, if not less, than what the original had to offer. If you remember from 2001's Planet of the Apes remake with Mark Wahlberg, it's kind of a good connection between both these films. A 5-year difference between Charlotte's Web 2006 and Planet of the Apes 2001, where both of these films just feel unnecessary. And in terms of my overall ranking on Charlotte's Web 2006, for that matter, it's probably no more than a 4.0 out of 10.1. A bit unnecessary, little more than an exact copy of the original, just 33 years into the future. I'd almost get the feeling that perhaps we could get another remake of Charlotte's Web after all this time that's passed, but I'm sure that by then I will come along and gladly give my own review of it in almost the same fashion as I've done with all 3 of these movies. So, an animated film, a sequel, and a live-action remake. And with that in mind, I don't quite see that much potential going on with this one. But hey, we'll still have the film itself, plus its sequel. A 30-year difference between the two, yet they still both hold up to a certain degree. The first one is rather big, and the second still does a decent job at holding itself up. I mean, I've had both of them on VHS over the years, as well as DVD. But of course, having digital makes it all the sweeter and easier to pick up, and have the chance to watch it as many times as I can. So, you know what? This is a big wrap-up that I have here. Something that's kind of like a trilogy, but Charlotte's Web was all worth talking about once again. However, if you stick around for a little while, I will have one more film coming around. After all, since this room is gonna get a bit cold, likely because the impending winter is on the way, and we definitely don't want to record much stuff while in here. So, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.
Whatever I want, I usually get, and I'm thinking I want you, but I don't have you yet. I ain't got no tricks to be playing on you.